Abba Yahuah, I just want to thank you. I thank you for this evening, my King. I thank you for what you are doing in this hour. And I praise and I thank you, Father, because through our word, through the word, you give us such insight and such depth for us to be able to understand exactly where we stand today. And even though tribes have moved and people have moved and things have moved, but yet in your word we have everything that we need to understand what it is that has happened and where do we come from and how do these things come about, and everything that we see in this word is not, you do not give us a genealogy, you do not give us explanations for our health, but you give us this for us to understand, because I have come to understand that there's some scriptures that speak so loud to us now that maybe didn't even make sense a few years ago or 50 years ago or 100 years ago. They might not have made sense, but now they're making perfect sense to us. And so, Father, I just want to thank you. I thank you for what you are doing. I thank you that you are revealing truth and that you want truth, Father, because truly you are wanting a people that can walk out through these scriptures to be able to come to the revelation of the knowledge of the truth, because at the end of the day, it's truth that will come and set us free. And so, Father, I just want to thank you. I thank you for what you are doing in each and every one of our lives. And I thank you that the last 2 sessions have been really eye-opening in the sense of understanding what has happened right from the beginning of when the world started again and when we started a new earth all over again after the flood, and what has come from there. And now we are going to start looking at the tribes of the earth, and this is the tribes that has passed down, and for us to understand these tribes and where we might see ourselves and how everything is just so intermingled at the moment, but for us to understand that there are some things that is still a thread that comes down to us understanding what you want to show us in your word. And so, Father, I just want to thank you. I thank you for the depth of the revelation of the knowledge of truth that you want to reveal. Father, I just want to thank you that you alone would come and open up the mind of our understanding, open up our hearts, open up our minds so that we may be able to embark on a journey with you in understanding what is it that you want to reveal to us in this time. What is it that is the importance for us to know? Because there's some things that are important and there's other things that is not as important. But everything in this word is a revelation for us to understand your heartbeat. And that is something that we really need to understand. This Bible has been given to us for us to understand what is it that you are wanting to reveal to us about your kingdom, about your purposes, about your plans, about your heartbeat, about where mankind has gone wrong and where mankind needs to return back to the place from where we have fallen. And so, Abba Yahuah, I just want to thank you. I thank you that you will continue this journey with us. And I thank you, Father, that I tonight can just be a vessel that you would want to use to be able to just open up some of these things to us, for us to be able to have a deeper understanding of certain things. And so, Abba Yahuah, I thank you for each person that is on this group, Father. I thank you for the journey that you're taking us on. And I thank you that each one of us finds ourselves in a different place on this journey. But I thank you, Father, that each one of us are on a path to only one goal. And the goal is returning back to that place in the Garden of Eden where we can once again eat from the tree of life, to be able to come back into that place of intimacy, to once again come back into that place of where we would be able to eat from that tree of life and come back into intimacy. And to come back into intimacy, many times we need to understand, how do we know where we need to return back to if we do not know from where we have fallen? And so I thank you, Abba Father, that you can reveal to us tonight, where have we fallen from? What is it that's creeped in to our mindsets and to our religious mindsets and into our belief systems that has been created a problem to where we stand today? And so, Abba Yahuah, I just want to thank you. I thank you for this teaching, and I thank you that you will speak to my mind and speak through my lips the very oracles that come from you. I praise and I thank you for this in Yahushua's name. Amen. Amen. Praise Abba Father. So we are just going to quickly recap a little bit of last week's lesson, where we really went in detail in understanding about the new wine, and that was spoken of in Luke chapter 5, where he says that he wants to bring us the new wine and that the new wine needs to be put in new wineskins. And what is this new wine? And this new wine is really coming from this pure grape juice, and the grape, the word in Hebrew for grape is anav. And that word anav is also the word for humble. It's the word for crushing. So it's to understand that this new wine is really going to be what the people that are going to drink the new wine must be willing to go through a crushing. But we had an intense look at John chapter 2 from verses 1 to 11, the wedding at Canaan. And what was this wedding at Canaan all about? Really explaining to us about the 6 jars of the water with the ritual cleansing, and how these 6 jars really represent the number of man. And what was this cleansing, this water that was going to turn into wine, which was going to be the purest form of unadulterated, unfermented wine that would have no leaven, no, it would be in its purest form, that was going to not be contaminated, because the pure wine of the blood of Yahushua, those six ritual cleansing jars, was eventually going to be symbolic of the cleansing that's going to come from the water and the blood that was going to be shed from the side of Yahushua, that was going to fall to the ground, that was going to bring cleansing into our lives, because he became the perfect sacrifice, and his blood came to bring deliverance, came to bring healing, came to bring us back into that place, to be coming back to Abba Yahuah, of where we would be fallen in our sin nature. And that is exactly what was the first sin that was committed in this new earth that Noah had come into, and that was the fallen nature, was this fermented wine. And the first miracle was going to be an unfermented wine that was going to come to be able to bring the healing and to bring the deliverance from where we have come. And so we really looked at Leviticus chapter 10 as well, verses 8 and 10, where the Father says that fermented wine he sees as unclean. He sees that it's not to be brought into his temple. He didn't want anything that was unclean, anything that would be contaminated with anything that is unclean to be brought into his temple. And therefore, how can we want to bring it into our temple? Then we looked and we saw in Hosea chapter 6, we looked at the fact of the 3rd day, and we also looked at the wedding of Canaan was on the 3rd day, and we understood that Yahushua was resurrected on the third day, and the wedding in Canaan, the miracle, took place on the third day, because on the third day Yahushua was going to resurrect from the dead, and as Yahushua was going to resurrect from the dead, he was going to become the perfect sacrifice of the new wine that he was now going to give us to drink, that was going to be able to come from a vessel that had no sin in him. And therefore he is symbolic, his blood is symbolic of that wine that is the pure, unadulterated, unfermented wine that was going to be given to us. And we had a look at Matthew chapter 26, when Yahushua sits down and he has the covenant meal, because it was all about the covenant. It's all about when we take communion, we are reminded of the covenant that Yahushua has come to make with us. When he breaks bread and he drinks wine, and he says, as often as you do this in remembrance of me. And we heard that there is no ways that is ever to be done with fermented wine, because that is an abomination, because Yahushua's blood is the purest form, and it's in its original state. Therefore, the wine of the new wine is in its original state of the grape juice, the purest grape juice, that we are really supposed to be taking this covenant meal and communion with Yahushua. And it's not to be done in a way that is going to be an abomination to the Father in any way, because Yahushua said he brings the new wine. And so we looked at Isaiah 24, and we also saw how the people will be looking for this wine in the streets, because the wine makes merry, and the wine is the wine of the fermentation of the flesh. And then we also had to look at the wine of Babylon, the great whore of Babylon, that everybody's drinking of the wine of the blood of the abomination. And that is the sin nature, and that is the abomination, and that is what fermented wine really represents. It represents this sin, and the sin nature, and our sin nature. And then we had a look at Isaiah chapter 28, where the prophets and the priests are really, he speaks quite sternly against the prophets and the priests in Isaiah chapter 28 verses 3 to 7, where he talks about where the prophets and the priests, they drink this wine and strong drink, so it's fermented wine and strong drink, and then they're leading the people astray by their false visions and their dreams. And then they teach the people that drinking wine and strong drink is okay, and this is not something that Abba Yahuah wants. So that was really us covering the chapter 9 of Genesis, where we really went into detail to understand the fullness of what our Messiah Yahushua has come to do by the first sin, and how he comes with the first miracle and comes to reinstate us from where we were fallen in this fallen nature. And he comes to be able to bring us this renewed covenant, that we can once again come back from the place of where we've fallen. And so if we look we ended off with Genesis chapter 9 verses 29. It says, "And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died." And so tonight we are going to look, and we are going to cover, as we are going to look at Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to see how far we get with Genesis chapter 10, because at the end of the day, there is a lot to be able to talk about these genealogies, because we need to understand that these genealogies are important, and we need to understand, because from Yah is going to come the tribes. And so therefore we're going to look a little bit into detail into understanding the meaning of names, into understanding the exactly what is spoken of over here. And so we need to have a little bit more of an understanding of these people and who they are and where they come from and what they mean, their names mean. And so we start in Genesis chapter 10, and let us start in verse 1. And this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the sons were born to them after the flood. And so we have understood that each one of them have got a meaning of a name. And so the first one that we're going to look at is going to be Japheth. And so we understand that the meaning of the name of Japheth is opened, open-minded, spacious, allure, enlarge, be gullible. And that is the meaning of the name Japheth. And so it says Japheth, and the sons of Japheth were Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Yawan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. So let us go and look at this name Gomer. Gomer means complete, to end, to cease, to bring an end. And that is the name Gomer. So Japheth brings forth Gomer. And Gomer is this name for complete, to end, to cease, to bring an end. And if we look at this Gomer, this is modern Turkey. And this is where we would get the Galatians, the book of Galatians. So it's in the modern Turkey, and this is where Paul was writing to the book of Galatians. And this is Japheth. Now remember, Japheth was the one that was spoken of, that we will look and see in verse 27 of chapter 9. It says, and let Aluah enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan become his servant. So we need to understand that Japheth is to dwell in the tents of Shem. So the chosen people comes through Shem, which we will understand that is the name. We looked into that in detail, and we will look at that next week as we're going to cover that in a little bit more detail. But we need to understand who these Japheth people are. So this is still a people that's come from Noah, and that they will dwell in the tents of Shem. So Magog, the land of Gog, this is the land of Gog. This is a mountain. It's the land of Gog. This is a mountain. And this is Central South Asia, possibly known as Afghanistan. Now that is very interesting, because right now, what is going on in Afghanistan at the moment? Afghanistan is being taken over. So where this land was a land that was being run and ruled, it's now being taken over. So this is known as Magog, and it's the land of Gog, and it's the mountains. It's in Central Asia. So then you've got Madai. What is Madai? Madai is the middle land, modern day city of Hamadan in Iran, and this is Madai. Then you've got Yawan. Now we're going to spend a bit of time in Yawan, because Yawan is going to be very interesting for us to be able to understand Yawan. Yawan. Now the root word of Yawan. So Madai means middle land, and Magog means land of Gog. So you've got Gomer, which is complete, end, cease, to bring to an end. Then you've got Magog, which is the land of Gog. And then you've got Madai, which is middle land. And then you've got Yawan. Now what is Yawan? Yawan comes from the root word of Yayin, which is interesting, because the root word, the Yayin, is wine, fermented wine, which is what? When you look up fermented wine, the word that comes up is intoxication. So if you look at fermented wine, in the concordance, fermented wine is seen as intoxication. Now this is interesting for us to understand Yawan, because Yawan is known as the land of Greece. And this is going to be interesting for us to be able to understand the Greek mindset. Then you've got Tubal. So you've got Yawan and Tubal. And Tubal means thou shalt be brought. And that is Cappadocia in Turkey. So we're looking at Gomer is Turkey, Galatians. Then you've got Magog, which is Afghanistan, which is Central Asia. Then you've got Madai, which is Middle Land, which is modern-day city of Hamadan, which is in Iran. Then you've got Yawan, which is the root word for Yayin, and this is Greece. Then you've got Tubal, which is thou shalt be brought, which is Cappadocia in Turkey. Then you've got Meshech, and Meshech is drawing up, a showing, which is another city within Turkey. And then you've got Tiras, and Tiras is desire, which is Turkey. So you've got this complete end of the land of Gog, of Middle Land, of Yayin, which is wine. Thou shalt be brought, and there will be a drawing up and a showing and a desire. And those are that is all the children of Japheth. Then you've got the children of Gomer, because now we're going to break it down. So from Japheth, you're going to get Gomer, then you're going to get Magog, but then he's not going to go into detail in all of them. He takes most probably the firstborn. Japheth's firstborn was Gomer. Now he takes the firstborn of Gomer, and he's going to be able to talk about, and the sons of Gomer. So who are the sons of Gomer? So once again, you've got the sons of Gomer. Gomer again is complete, to end, to cease, to bring to an end. And that is now interesting because it's Ashkenaz. Now, how interesting is it that in the land of Israel today, you've got these Jews that call themselves the Ashkenazi Jews. And they are the ones that say they are the original Jews. They are the original the Jews that are inhabiting the land, that are the tribes of the Jews that inhabit the land, and yet they call themselves Ashkenazi Jews. So there are two kinds of Jews in the land. You've got your Ashkenazi Jews and you've got your Sephardic Jews. And so the Sephardic Jews come from your more places like your Iberia Peninsula, which is going to come from your Portugal, your Spain, your Italy, your France. They're going to come from North Africa in what's that very top country, Morocco, from those kind of, and they also the ones that will come from Iran and Iraq and those kind of places. Those are the ones that are the Sephardic Jews. But the Ashkenazi Jews, they are the ones that are the bulk. There's more Ashkenazi Jews almost in the land than what there are Sephardic Jews. But it's interesting because the Ashkenazi Jews are the ones that are really, now look at this, Ashkenazi means a man as sprinkled, a fire as scattered. So they were a people that was a fire as scattered. And these are the people from western part of Germany. Interesting. Western part of Germany. And so these were a lot of the Jews that basically would have come out of the Holocaust, that are a lot of these Jews that they are Ashkenazi Jews. But they do not come from the tribe of Shem. They're coming from the tribe of Ashkenaz, which is from Gomer, which is from Japheth. Then you get Riphath, and that is, so the Gomer has Ashkenaz, and then Riphath, and Riphath means spoken, and that is your people from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and also from Germany. So these are your Riphath. This is the tribes that will come once again from Gomer, that comes back to Japheth. Then you're going to get Togarmah. Togarmah, thou wilt break her. So these are all the children of Gomer. Gomer is complete to end to cease. There is going to be a man as sprinkled, fire as scattered. So they were going to be as scattered. The Ashkenaz were going to be scattered. And fire, as a man as sprinkled, fire scattered. Isn't that interesting? Were they not put in the fire? Wow. You know, they were burnt inside those places in Auschwitz. It was those bellows of the fire. And Riphath is spoken, and then you got Togarmah, thou wilt break her, and this is really from Armenia, a lot of the people that are in Armenia. Then we get in Genesis chapter 10 verses 4, and in Genesis chapter 10 verses 4, and the sons of Yawan. Now we need to look at the sons of Yawan. So Yawan is another one of the children of Japheth, because we know Japheth had Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yawan, Tubal, but it's interesting. He is now not giving the sons of Magog, he's not giving Madai, but he's giving Yawan. Why Yawan? Because somehow Yawan was going to make a difference in the times ahead. So he wants to give you the genealogy of Yawan. Now listen to this. Yawan. Yawan, the root word, as we understand, is going to be wine, and this is from Greece. Now, the firstborn is Elisha. Elisha, God of the coming one. So, which God of the coming one? Which coming one? God of the coming one. So, which God of the coming one? Which is the coming one that's going to be part of Elisha, which is going to be part of the sons of Yawan for us to understand. Then you're going to get Tarshish. Tarshish means yellow, the yellow jasper. And then you've got Kittim, which means bruises. And then you've got Dodanim, which means leaders. Now, what is so interesting about this Yawan people? It's from Elisha, from Tarshish, from Kittim, and Dodanim. Now, all of these people, their dwelling place is, it's Cyprus. So Elisha is from Cyprus, Tarshish is Cyprus, Kittim is Cyprus, and Dodanim is the leaders. Now, Tarshish can either be seen as Cyprus, or Tarshish can also be seen as the top part of Spain. So this is really the Mediterranean. It's all around that Mediterranean Ocean. And look at how interesting it says. From these, the coastland peoples of the nations were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their clans, into their nations. Wow. So from these, Yawan, from Elisha, from Tarshish, from Kittim, from Dodanim, from these, the coastlands, because that is the coastlands that would have been around the Mediterranean Ocean, which we see that Tarshish, if we look at Tarshish as when we look at Tarshish later, we will understand that Tarshish is going into Spain. It's going into the top part of Spain there by the Mediterranean Ocean. where basically where you get Ceuta, it's the top part of Africa, into Algiers, where Algiers is the very most southern point there of Spain, because you got the Strait of Gibraltar, which is there in the Mediterranean Ocean, which is between Ceuta, which is the northern part of Africa, and then you've got the southern part, the most southern part of Spain, and that was in ancient times also known as Tarshish. But it is also there near the Cyprus, the island of Cyprus. Now, we need to understand Yawan. Because if we look at the island of Crete, and if you look at Elisha, the God of the coming one, which is the God of the coming one? Now, if we need to understand the importance of Crete, now Crete was one of the islands that was very much on the agenda, that was one of the islands that we were going to certainly, Abba had given us an assignment that we were going to go to the island of Crete, because you must understand that we have done, Elsa and I have done extensive work in Greece, where the Father has taken us into Turkey and he's taken us into Greece in order to be able to, we've gone into Turkey and we've done a lot of groundwork in especially the Paul route, and then we've done a lot of Greece, because Greece has to do with the Greek mythology. And if you understand the center of worship, now listen to what Crete was. Crete was the central place of worship for the gods that was in the time of the Greek mythology, that was part of the Cretan culture, that the churches of Paul, in the time of Paul, that's why Paul went to Crete. Because why? Because the problem was when Paul started to preach the gospel and he started to go to the Gentiles that were out in, when we look at Asia Minor, when he went into Asia Minor and he went into places like he was in Cappadocia, like he went into Galatian, like he went into places like Corinth, and like he went into Philippi and in Thessalonica, and those areas in Asia Minor, which was part of Turkey, he was coming up against a lot of their mindset of their understanding of the gods that they served in those days. So if you go to places like Ephesus, they were serving the god of Artemis. If you would go into places like, if you would go into Corinth, what was the gods that they were coming up in Corinth? Because if you go to Corinth, you are up against the Acropolis that was of Apollo. And then when he was in Greece and he was on the rock where he preached his famous sermon to the Athenians, and he said, you even have a rock for the unknown, you even have like a temple for an unknown god, because they had so many. And if you go to Athens and you look at the Acropolis is made up of all these temples. That was to Athena, that was to Zeus, that was to Nike, that was to Apollo, and these were the gods. But if we understand today, I mean, unless you have been to those places, you do not understand the size of these things. They were huge. If you look at that, like if you go to the temple of Zeus, and you look at the size of the temple of Zeus, or you look at the temple of Apollo in Corinth, these places were huge, because these gods were huge. And what they called Greek mythology, we understand that they were part of these fallen angels, because at the end of the day, these giants have always been around, and these giants were part of these so-called gods. And so in Paul's day, He was having to stand up against them because why? In Paul's day, they were integrating their understanding of Christianity, of the gospel that was being preached to them. They were integrating it with the Greek mythology of their Greek gods, mainly Zeus. And when we understand that the origins of the Greek mindset that we as believers have adapted to has come down a bloodline that comes from these mindsets that came from Greek mythology. And so when the Father took us to be able to go to Greece the first time, it was to be able to come and break down this altar of this religious mindset that we have had. Because now, do you know what is so interesting? Zeus had a son Apollo, and he had a son Dionysus, and he had a daughter Artemis. And these would be the gods that when Paul would have to go, like I said to you, if you go to the city of Ephesus, which we've been to Ephesus, and when you are in Ephesus, when he stood in the Colosseum that they have there in Ephesus, and he preached to the Ephesians, he was saying to them, you're serving this goddess of Artemis. And the worship that you're offering, do you not understand that which I'm offering you here today is not the same as what you've come out of? They had to break away. And that is why when people want to bring Paul to me, and they want to be able to build their doctrines, and they want to build their doctrines, and they call it the Pauline doctrines, they do not understand Paul. Because if you've gone to Corinth, and you've gone to Athens, and you've gone to Thessalonians, and you've gone to if you've gone to Philippi, and you've gone to these places, you will understand what Paul was up against. If you go to Corinth, you will understand the book of 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians in detail, because he was standing up right there in Corinthians. There was the huge temple of Apollo. And now they're wanting to intermingle their religion with the customs and the traditions that came down from their Greek mindset and their Greek mythology. And this is why we need to understand that this is already coming down from here. This is already coming down from here. This is already coming down from the sons of Japheth. And the sons of Japheth are going to come. If we understand the sons of Yawan, then we understand who are the sons of Yawan. And part of these gods, you're going to get Apollo. Now, if you're going to go to Genesis chapter 9, let's quickly go to Genesis chapter 9 for us to be able to see Genesis chapter 9 verses 11, for you to understand that these gods will present themselves. And look and see. In Genesis chapter 9 verse 11 it says, and they have over them a sovereign, the messenger of the pit of the deep, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. And this is the god Apollo. And this Apollo already has presented itself as the son of Zeus. And he has many temples that have been dedicated to him in many different places throughout. If you're going to go to in Turkey, some of the areas of Turkey, and in Greece. And so we see how Turkey is featured here, and we see how Greece is featured here. And at the end of the day, Crete is the island where Zeus was born. It's the very island where Zeus was born. So from here, from the tribe of Yawan, was going to come forth a god. That's what Elisha, the God of the coming one. Which was the God of the coming one? They were going to hail Zeus as being a god. And that's what we need to understand. They saw Zeus as God. And so that's why even in the Greek language, we must understand, we'll understand many things about names. And so this is why we must understand that Zeus had a son Apollo and he had a son Dionysus. Now listen to this. Dionysus was the god of wine, and he was the god of the theater and the god of entertainment. So he was the wine drinker. He was the one that was all the entertainment and the wine drinker. Dionysus was known as the god of wine. And with that wine comes the entertainment, and with that wine comes the theater. So what has our churches become? Entertainment. We want to entertain people because we want them to drink the wine of the deception that comes to be able to blind the people instead of having the people being able to come into truth. This is what's coming from Dionysus. And then Apollo is the god that is still going to be served, because Apollo was his brother, and Apollo was the one that actually took over from Zeus. And that is why Apollo had many temples erected for him. And this is again the spirit of Hasatan that is coming down, that eventually you will see Apollo raising up. Now, the leaders of the world, a lot of these rulers of the world, they hail Apollo and they look forward to their God to once again appear, and their God will be Apollo, which was the son of Zeus. And that is why you've got Dionysus and Apollo, the two sons of Zeus that basically, and then Artemis, the sister. And they are the three that feature the whole time. When you walk throughout Greece, and when you go throughout, especially where you get your 7 churches, and especially where you have places like Ephesus and places like that, Corinth, and Corinth is still is in Greece, but where you get Ephesus is in Turkey, you will see that these gods still feature. And this is what I need you to understand today, that Yawan, meaning fermented intoxication of wine, that is what Yawan means. Yawan comes from the root word of Yayin, which is going to be the fermented wine, which is going to be the intoxication that is going to bring a people into deception. So the truth will come, but yet they will want the deception. And that is why I'm saying to you that in the time already when Paul was in Crete, Paul was having to stand up against the people in Crete and saying, you cannot bring your Cretan culture into that which is set apart and holy unto the Father. And we will understand as we're going to look at Kush, and we're going to understand Nimrod, and we're going to understand the Tower of Babel, that we will understand that the Father does not want mixed seed. The Father will not want mixed seed, and that is why he calls a people to come out from amongst this intoxication. He calls a people to come out, because we will see that as this truths unfold, we will see that today we are still suffering from the same intoxication that comes from Yawan, that is coming from the Greek mindset, that brings us the doctrines that is to intoxicate us. That is exactly what this god of Dionysus, which has also got temples to Dionysus, and he would be into debauchery. It was the god of everything that has to do with the flesh. They would have orgies, and they would have debauchery, and they would drink, and they would get drunk on this wine, and then it would be entertainment. So it's all about the entertainment, the intoxication, and this is why it's the wine of Babylon that intoxicates us. And that is the Greek mindset. And so this Greek mythology that people will say is Greek mythology is not a mythology of something that is just, oh, you know what, it was something that was just made up. No. If you go look at those temples, you will understand that these people were gods. And who were they? They were the fallen angels that were huge beings, because those temples are huge. We are minute in comparison to those temples. We can put a photograph or two on the group for people to be able to see, because just at the temple of Zeus, there in Athens, you can see the size of these temples. Now, why would you need such a huge temple if there were people that was our height? You wouldn't need those huge temples. It just shows you that those people were huge people to be able to dwell in those temples. And this is what Paul was coming up against. But you see, we seem to have this understanding that Paul was bringing a new doctrine altogether. No, Paul was bringing the truth of the word. And he was standing up against this mixed seed that was wanting to come and mix together with the truth that was being spoken. So this is covering basically, now we've looked at the children of Yawan, and then we go and we read from verses 5, and we said that these are the coastland people, and they made according to their clans and into their nations. And the sons of Ham, now we're going to look at the sons of Ham, because it's important for us to understand the sons of Ham. And how amazing is it? The Father didn't want us to be able to look, he didn't want us to be, he wanted to, he from the sons of Japheth, he didn't look at Magog, he didn't look at Madai, he didn't look at Tubal, he didn't look at Meshech, he didn't look at Tiras. He only chose Gomer and Yawan, because Gomer is going to be able to give you all those countries that is going to make up your Turkey, is going to make up Iran, is going to make up parts of Germany and parts of those areas of Germany, and those areas of understanding Czechoslovakia, and understanding Poland, and understanding those parts of Europe. Those are the places those were the ones that he was going to focus on, because I don't understand why he didn't go deeper into the others, but he didn't. So now we're going to have a look at Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to look at Kush. So you're going to see the sons of Ham, and now we know that the name Ham means hot. And then we look at Kush. Interesting. The word Kush means black. That's the word Kush. So Kush is the word for black. Now we don't make it up. That's the word for Kush. Interesting. And it's a large area called, that was the time, you see, in those days, Ethiopia was this huge area. It's not only the small country of what Ethiopia is today. In those days, Ethiopia was made up of a huge piece of land. And that Kush is what we would also understand as being Sudan. So it is Ethiopia making up that Sudan and those areas around Eritrea, Ethiopia, and a lot of those countries around there was what Egypt was what Ethiopia was made up of. And interesting, Kush is the word for black. And so Ham has the son Kush, and he has the son Mitzrayim. So Mitzrayim means double straight. It means, and it's Egypt, and it's double straight. But if we look at that Mitzrayim, it also means to bind. It means besiege. It means confine. It means cramp. It means to shut in. It means to besiege. Interesting. Mitzrayim was going to play an important role also in the future. And so it also means double straights. And then put means a bow, and that is that's Libya. So you've got Sudan, Ethiopia, you've got Egypt, you've got Libya. Then you've got Canaan, and that's the lowland. That is Canaan, and that means lowland. It means to be humbled. It means to be brought down. It means to be brought low. It means it means subjection. It means to be subdued. That is Canaan. And we will understand that Canaan was the one that was cursed. But yet at the end of the day, I had to look at this because I went back again and I thought, Father, you speak about Japheth, you speak about Shem, you speak about Canaan, but what about the rest of the descendants of Canaan? I mean, the rest of the descendants of Ham. Because all it says, if we go back into Genesis chapter 9, verses 25, it says, and he said, cursed is Canaan. Let him become a servant of servants to his brothers. So we know that Canaan is going to become a servant of servants to his brothers. But he said, blessed be Yahuah, the Aluah of Shem, and let Canaan become his servant. So Canaan is going to become the servant of Shem. Then he said, let Aluah enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servants. But where is the blessing over? Where's the blessing over Ham's other children? Where is the blessing of Ham? He curses Canaan, but what about Ham's other children? Where do they fit in? Why is there not a blessing over Ham's other children? There's nothing being spoken about them. So that is why we need to see what is it about these people. So do they feature? Are they important? What comes out of them? Because does blessing come out of them? So let's look and see. Kush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan, and the sons of Kush. So now again, it talks about the sons of Kush. So who are the sons of Kush? The sons of Kush are Seba. Seba means drink thou. Then there's Havilah. Havilah is circle. Then there's Sabta. Sabta is striking. Then there's Ramah. Ramah means vibration, quiver, uncertain. Then there's Sabteka. Sabteka is striking. And then there's the sons of Ramah. So Kush, then you get, Kush has Ramah, because now, if it doesn't tell you about the sons of Seba, it doesn't tell you about the sons of Havilah, it doesn't tell you about the sons of Sabta, it tells you about the sons of Ramah. So now the sons of Ramah is Sheba, which is 7, which is an oath. And then you've got Dedan, which means low country. Now, interesting, all of these sons of Kush, you're really looking at the area of Ethiopia and Saudi Arabia. That is mainly the area that you're looking at there. So it's again that greater area of Ethiopia that was going to be Ethiopia, but not the Ethiopia that we understand today, but the greater area of Ethiopia, and including the land of Saudi Arabia. So when we look and we see here then it talks about in verses 8 and 9, and this is something that we need to look at now as well. And in verses 8 it says, and Kush brought forth Nimrod. So Kush brings forth Mitzrayim, Put. You've got Ham brings forth Kush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. Now Kush, if he was the firstborn, he brings forth Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ramah, Sabteka, and then you've got Ramah brings forth Sheba and Dedan. But now Kush brings forth another son, and this is Nimrod. Now he's important. Nimrod, he began to be a mighty one on the earth. So the name Nimrod means rebellion or the valiant. So we need to understand who was going to be this Nimrod. Nimrod was the mighty one on the earth, and his name means rebellion or valiant. And he became a mighty one, a strong man, a brave man, a mighty warrior. He became powerful and great. He became a hunter. And if we look and see in verses 9, it says, he was a mighty hunter before Yahuah. Therefore he said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahuah. And so this Nimrod becomes very important for us to understand that Nimrod brought forth, when it says there, Nimrod, the mighty hunter before you, he became a mighty hunter before Yahuah. And the beginning of his reign was Babel. So he brought forth a kingdom. And this was a dominion, a reign, a sovereignty. He brings forth Babel. And what is Babel? Babel is Babylon. And what does Babylon mean? Babylon means confusion. By mixing, mingle, confuse, to mix oneself, to mix. And you know, if we think about it, this is now where, if you know, these tribes are the tribes that go into Africa. And from Kush, it means black. And this is the tribes that go into, Kush is the one that goes into Ethiopia, and this is Saudi Arabia. And then Nimrod, his kingdom in Babel, this whole area is also the top part of Africa, but eventually it goes into the area of Iraq. It's the area of Iraq, because eventually we will see the Tower of Babel. So we will look into this a little bit deeper next week. I just wanted to touch on that now, but next week we go a little bit deeper in understanding the genealogies, as we will then finish off the genealogies, and to understand then, as we will start in chapter 11, to understand exactly what happens with the Tower of Babel. And that is why we need to understand that these, even though this chapter is a bunch of names, but these names are going to be significant to us, for us to understand the tribes, and for us to understand how did these tribes come upon the earth. They come upon the earth, and the Father is the one that understands how He's put the tribes there. And if we start to see how these things come about, and we start to look at today, then we will understand. Because, you see, there is a people group that will turn around and say they are the real Shemites, they are the real Israelites, because they will turn around and say, according to their skin color, they are the real Israelites. But at the end of the day, the Bible is the Bible, and the Bible is very clear. And the reason why they say that they are the original tribes is because in the land of Canaan, they found artifacts that comes back to darker skinned people. But of course, because the Canaanites came from Ham. And so we understand that the original Canaanites were in the land of Israel, which is the land of Canaan, which was the cursed ones, that was told that they were to be able to be conquered by, that Shem would eventually be the people that would dwell in that land, because it was told that Canaan would serve Shem. And who are the true Shemites? And so these things show us. It shows us many things. And when we see the way these genealogies are, and when we see these things from the beginning, we understand many things that are already there. So, Father, you know, man can come with their clever understanding, but Father has already put things from the beginning. And when we see how these things unfold, and when we understand, why did He choose Yawan to be the ones to be spoken of? Why didn't He choose Magog? Why did He choose Yawan? Because Greece was going to play an important role in the last days. Turkey was going to play an important role in the last days. And these things are important for us to understand. So let us pray. Abba Yahuah, I just want to thank you, my King, as you are the one that comes and reveals to us the deeper things in our word for us to understand. Man can come with their understanding of their mindset, but you are the one that has already put things in place. Why did you choose the ones that you chose in order to be able to speak about? Why did you not choose the other tribes and the other people? And why did you not choose their genealogy? And Father, forgive us, Father, because so many times we go past these genealogies. And I know I was as guilty of that, as that when it comes to a genealogy, I will just skip a genealogy and say, this is not important. But Abba, everything in your word is important. You don't put on the 5th day of the 2nd month or on the 1st day of the 1st month or whatever it is for our health, but you put it there because you have a reason. And we need to understand things from your mindset and not from our religious mindsets. And Father, today we have truly understood that this Yawan and this Greek mindset of this this Christianity that has been given to us, that we understand that the origins of the Christianity that we have been given, a lot of its origins come from pagan religion. And that is why you are wanting to come and shake our foundations so that we can be those that are on a journey to be able to return back to truth. Because we do not want to learn the ways of the Greeks, but we want to learn the ways of the Hebrews. Because you have a chosen people by which you have brought your genealogy. By that you have revealed your covenant once again. When we are going to look at Abraham, we are going to understand a people, and from that bloodline you have chosen a people that is to once again follow you, because these tribes of the earth are going to once again get scattered, and they're going to get lost, and they're going to go astray because of the things that they are going to serve other gods. But Father, I praise and I thank you that you will always have a remnant, and you will have a people that will be set apart, that will walk in truth, that will serve you. And so I thank you, Abba Yahuah, for these deep revelations that you are teaching us, because we are not going to be those that are just going to read surface, but we are going to be those that need to be able to go deep to understand these things. And Father, I just want to thank you that you gave us the grace, you gave Elsie and I the grace to be able to go to these places, to be able to understand these truths, so that when the time comes, we don't speak from that which is of our mind, but we speak from that which we have seen. We speak from that which we have experienced in being there, for you to be able to reveal the truth to your people, so that we can come back to the truth of the foundations that was given to us from inception. Because you are wanting a people that are not going to be in mixed seed and that are going to be intoxicated with the wine of fornication, with the things of the world and the things that has come from other doctrines of demons. But we are those that want to come into the truth of your word. And so I praise and I thank you for this in Yahushua's name. Amen.